Titled Defining Moment. Please tell us about this release.
Well, it's a collection of songs. I wrote all of these tunes except for one of them, and the tunes were written really just kind of around in a loosely based jazz format. Wasn't really set out to be a jazz record in and of itself, but it kind of developed that way, and as I mentioned, my influences, I've always been influenced by those things, but everything that I do kind of tends to be a hybrid. So you can definitely hear some of those influences in the music, but I basically recorded the record with just two other musicians, and there's a drummer named Scott Meter who's here in Atlanta, been here in Atlanta for many years, actually grew up here. And he's a phenomenal drummer, and we work together a lot on sessions, and so I had him play, and a bass player named Danny O'Lanerty, who is based out of Nashville.
Recently you played on a record by Earl Klug that is currently up for a Grammy Award.
Yes.
Let's discuss that, how that session came about, and talk about the actual songs that you played on the recording.
Well, actually, interestingly enough, the call came from my friend Scott Meter, who was the drummer that played on this project. Scott called me, and he is friends with a guy, let me scratch my ear, sorry. He is friends with a guy who has worked with Earl on his last two records, a fella named Bert Elliott, who's here in Atlanta, and so Bert and Scott have known each other a long time, and I did not know Bert. I only knew him by name. We've never worked together. So Scott had called me and said, they're looking to put together a tracking session. Would you be interested in doing it? And of course I said yes. I've been a big fan of Earl's for many years, and so we put together the session, and we did a tracking date for one song. It's called Driftin', and that song has been it was a top 5 hit on the Smooth Jazz chart this year. It was the first single they released from his newest album. So but we showed up at the session, and it was very loose, very laid back. We just kind of went through the tune a few times, and really enjoyed the process of working with Earl. And it was a little surreal for me watching him walk into the booth and picking up his guitar and just getting in front of the mic, and he's not even doing anything, and it just sounds like he just sounds like he sounds, you know. And it's just really neat, all those years of hearing someone on a record and then being in the same room with them while they play was really enjoyable. So we did the session, and as far as we knew, it went great, and everybody was happy. And a couple weeks later, my cell phone rings 3 times in 3 separate numbers, and the third time it was actually Earl himself calling me and wanted me to come in and overdub on another song, and that song actually wound up being called Morning in Rio. I don't think it actually had a title when we were working on it, but it was called Morning in Rio. And so I went over to his house. He has a studio in his house, really nice little setup that he's got there, and so I brought my keyboards over, and we did some overdubbing for a good part of the day. And really enjoyed that experience. That was really fun, and actually wound up overdubbing some things on Driftin'. And as things worked out, I wound up playing piano solos on both of those songs also, just because they had some little holes to fill in those tunes, and just said, well, take a solo and let's see how it worked, and they liked the result, so it's there on the record. So that was a very enjoyable thing to get to do. And